The images are impossible to ignore. Glaciers melting into rising seas, swallowing entire islands. These once majestic ice formations, which have stood for millennia, are now disappearing at an alarming rate. The rising sea levels are not just a distant concern, they are a present danger, threatening to engulf coastal communities and erase entire nations from the map. Fires rage across continents, leaving behind a trail of ash and devastation. These infernos, fueled by unprecedented heat waves and prolonged droughts, are more intense and frequent than ever before. They consume everything in their path, from ancient forests to modern cities, turning vibrant ecosystems into barren wastelands and displacing countless species. Floods displace millions, turning homes into watery graves. Torrential rains and overflowing rivers transform familiar landscapes into scenes of chaos and despair. Families are forced to flee, leaving behind their possessions and memories as the waters rise and consume everything in their path. This is not a dystopian future, it is the reality of climate change unfolding before our very eyes. The impacts are widespread and multifaceted, affecting every corner of the globe. From the melting ice caps of the Arctic to the scorching deserts of Africa, no region is spared from the relentless march of climate change. The Earth is sending us an SOS, a desperate plea for help, but are we listening? The signs are all around us in the form of extreme weather events, shifting seasons and vanishing wildlife. Yet despite the clear and present danger, our response has been slow and inadequate. These are not just environmental problems, they are humanitarian crises with far-reaching legal implications. The displacement of communities, the loss of livelihoods, and the strain on resources are creating new challenges for governments and international organizations. Climate refugees are becoming a stark reality as people are forced to leave their homes in search of safety and stability. As the impacts of climate change intensify, they are pushing our legal systems to their limits, exposing gaps and inadequacies in our ability to respond. The traditional frameworks of law designed for a stable and predictable world are struggling to keep pace with the rapid and unpredictable changes brought about by climate change. The traditional tools of law, designed for a world where the environment was a given, are struggling to keep up with a planet in flux. New legal precedents are being set, and innovative approaches are being explored to address the unique challenges posed by climate change. Environmental law is evolving, but it must do so quickly to keep up with the accelerating pace of environmental degradation. We are entering an era where climate change is no longer a distant threat, but a lived reality, a force that is reshaping our world and demanding a radical reimagining of our legal frameworks. The urgency of the situation calls for bold and decisive action, both in the courtroom and beyond. It is a call to re-examine our relationship with the planet and to take responsibility for the future we are creating. In this fight for our planet's future, the courts are becoming increasingly important battlegrounds. Legal battles over environmental protection, climate justice, and the rights of future generations are being fought with increasing frequency and intensity. The outcomes of these cases will shape the trajectory of our planet for years to come, making the role of the judiciary more crucial than ever. Across the globe, courtrooms are transforming into arenas where the battle for climate justice is being fiercely waged. These legal battlegrounds are not just about interpreting laws, but about redefining them to address the unprecedented challenges posed by climate change. From the hallowed halls of the Indian Supreme Court to the bustling courtrooms of The Hague, judges are being called upon to grapple with the complex legal questions posed by a warming world. These questions are not merely academic, they have real-world implications for the survival of communities, ecosystems, and even entire nations. The very foundations of our legal systems, built on the assumption of a stable climate, are being shaken. Traditional legal principles are being tested as never before, requiring innovative interpretations and bold decisions to protect the environment and future generations. At the forefront of this legal revolution is Justice BV Nagarathna of the Indian Supreme Court, a beacon of hope in the fight for climate justice. Her work is emblematic of a broader movement within the judiciary to confront the climate crisis head-on. Justice Nagarathna's pronouncements on climate change are not mere legal interpretations, they are clarion calls for action, urging us to recognize the interconnectedness of our planet and the urgent need for collective action. Her rulings emphasize that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but a human rights issue, affecting the most vulnerable among us. She reminds us that the law is not a static entity, but a living, breathing instrument that must evolve to meet the challenges of our times. This evolution requires a fundamental shift in how we would perceive justice, moving beyond traditional boundaries to incorporate ecological and intergenerational perspectives. Climate change, she argues, demands that we breathe new life into our legal systems, infusing them with a deep understanding of ecological interconnectedness and a commitment to intergenerational equity. This means recognizing that the actions we take today will have profound impacts on future generations, and that we have a moral and legal obligation to protect the planet for them. Around the world, similar efforts are underway. International climate agreements are being scrutinized in courts, and judges from diverse backgrounds are stepping up to the challenge. Global climate protests are not just happening in the streets, but are finding their way into courtrooms, where the voices of the people are being heard and acted upon. Young activists, in particular, are making their mark, bringing cases that challenge governments and corporations to take meaningful action on climate change. Their courage and determination are inspiring a new generation of legal minds to think creatively and act decisively in the face of this global crisis. As the legal system adapts to these new realities, landmark rulings are being made that set important precedents for future cases. These decisions are not just about interpreting the law, but about shaping it to ensure a sustainable and just future for all. The courts, once seen as bastions of tradition, are now at the cutting edge of the fight for climate justice. They are proving to be powerful arenas where the law can be a force for good, driving the systemic changes needed to address the climate crisis and protect our planet for generations to come. Justice Nagarathna's call to action is not merely a moral imperative. It is rooted in a pragmatic understanding of the law's potential to drive change. She envisions courts not as passive observers, but as active agents in the fight against climate change, shaping narratives, setting precedents, and holding powerful actors accountable for their actions. She emphasizes the need for courts to adapt to the realities of a changing climate, moving beyond traditional legal frameworks to embrace innovative interpretations that address the unique challenges posed by global warming. Justice Nagarathna's vision of climate justice is not confined to the courtroom. It extends to a broader societal transformation where environmental protection is not just a legal obligation but a shared value. Her message is clear: we are all stakeholders in this fight, and the time for complacency is long gone. We must act now with urgency and determination to protect our planet for generations to come. Climate change presents a unique legal challenge. How do you hold someone accountable for a problem that is global in scope, affecting every corner of the planet, and impacting countless lives and ecosystems? The issue is compounded by the fact that climate change is often the result of cumulative actions over decades, if not centuries. Industrial activities, deforestation, and pollution have all contributed to the current state of our environment. Pinpointing responsibility for specific climate impacts is like trying to trace a single raindrop back to its source in a vast, complex storm. Each action, no matter how small, adds to the larger problem, making it difficult to isolate individual contributions. It's a daunting task, but one that courts are increasingly being asked to undertake. Legal systems around the world are grappling with how to address these issues within existing frameworks. Traditional legal frameworks, often focused on individual actions and immediate harm, struggle to grapple with the diffuse and delayed nature of climate change impacts. The law typically deals with direct cause and effect, but climate change defies this simplicity. A factory emitting pollutants may not directly cause a specific flood thousands of miles away, but its contribution to the overall problem is undeniable. The emissions from one factory join those from countless others, creating a cumulative effect that leads to global warming and climate disruption. The melting ice caps, rising sea levels, and deforested areas we see today are the result of many such contributions over time. Each action, each emission adds to the growing crisis. This raises complex questions about causation, liability, and the limits of traditional legal remedies. How do we assign responsibility in a way that is fair and just, while also effective in addressing the problem. The challenge for courts is to develop legal frameworks that can adequately address the complexities of climate change causation. This involves not only understanding the science behind climate change, but also rethinking legal principles to fit this new context. Ensuring that those responsible for contributing to the problem are held accountable for their actions is crucial. This accountability must transcend borders and time, recognizing that the effects of climate change are felt globally and over long periods. Regardless of where or when those actions occurred, the legal system must evolve to meet the challenge. This is not just about punishment, but about creating a framework that encourages better practices and mitigates future harm. The future of our planet depends on it.